Hi there, it's Dr. Heidi Heron here with the Worldwide Institutes of NLP. Thank you very much for joining us today for this webinar. Today we're talking about finding yourself with NLP. It's an interesting topic and one that isn't directly here do this with NLP, but something that we're going to investigate a little bit more and then look at how can we utilize the skills of NLP to help you find yourself or help others to do the same. Oftentimes in my private practice, I have people coming to see me, and they say various things like, I don't know who I am, or I want to figure out who I am, or I'm lost, I'm stuck, I don't know what I want to do, I don't know what I want to be, I'm confused. And all of this is kind of a signal saying, well, who are you? What is your identity? And sometimes we have a variety of different identities that we hold in the world, but hopefully they're congruent with who we believe we are. And if not, that's when we can start to use some of this NLP stuff to be able to align ourselves, to be able to get our identity straight. So just a little bit about me. Again, I'm Heidi Heron. I'm one of the principal trainers with the Worldwide Institutes of NLP. And I've been training NLP and been personally or professionally involved since 2000. And not only do I train NLP and we train around the world, but I also run my own practice where I'm working with individuals and couples and families and businesses and groups and facilitating change and helping people to move from wherever they're at to wherever they want to be. So today, let's take a quick look, and just in case you're not familiar yet with what NLP is. I see on the call that there's quite a few of our students online and quite a few names that I don't recognize. So welcome back and welcome. So real quickly, especially looking at identity, so NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, my definition of NLP is understanding how the language of the mind creates the programs of emotions, behaviors, and thoughts we run in life. Because we have behaviors or programs for everything, patterns of how you fall in love, how you wake up in the morning, who you are, your belief systems, how you praise yourself, how you beat yourself up. All of these, and hopefully more of the former and less of the latter. But each and everything that we do, there's a pattern or a program for. And we can understand the programs that we run. We can enhance those programs. We can change those programs. We can create new programs of emotions, behaviors, and thoughts so that we can do better, so we can live the life that we truly want to live. And we have, NLP has probably two sides of it. One is the side of communication, how to understand others, how to understand yourself, and how to be better understood with the vast array of communication skills that NLP has. And NLP also has a large section of tools that are modeled from the psychotherapy world that include changing beliefs and habits and patterns and self-concepts and ideas using submodalities and parts integrations and timelines and hypnotic suggestions and questions. So it's a very varied topic. Today when we're starting to talk about finding yourself with NLP, a few highlights here is NLP can help you to identify any self-identifying beliefs and values, remove any limitations which might hold you back, access your resources to allow you to soar above and beyond, solidify your boundaries and roles, amplify your self-worth and self-esteem, and really find out who you are. Now, it might not happen in this webinar. It might happen over time. In fact, I would highly recommend that you go back and listen or watch this webinar a few times because I think there'll be some interesting little gems that you can get out of it. I would even recommend having a piece of paper nearby as this webinar goes on so that you can start taking some notes about you and finding out who you are through some self-identification. Because we do truly live our lives and we become who we truly are. I know that I'm the same person but different person than when I was 20, different person than I was 8, but the same person at my core because my core values I don't believe have changed. But for some people they have. Some people they tremendously grow and enrich and move from wherever they were to wherever they are. when we're talking about your identity, we're going to be talking about 4 different concepts around identity. And that would be your self-identity, your boundaries, your worldview, and your self-esteem. And later on in this piece, we'll take another look at this neurological levels, which is what you see on the right-hand side of your screen. It's a tool that was built by Robert Dilts, modeled on Gregory Bateson's work. And later on, I'll be guiding you through a process utilizing the neurological levels and kind of talking a little bit more about each of these levels as we go. Oftentimes, when I start to talk to people about who they are, if people have gone through a transition, if it's a job transition, a life transition, they've become parents, their kids have moved out, they've been retired, they've been made redundant, they quit their job. Oftentimes, people don't know who they are because a person's job oftentimes becomes a cemented part of their identity. Yet it doesn't necessarily need to. It can be a part of your identity. In fact, when we start talking about that first concept of self-identity, we're saying, who are you? What is the way that you look at yourself and the relationship that you have about that to the world? And this might be internal or external attributes of yourself. But our self-identity is what we identify with. So it would be more of a constant trait. If somebody thinks, man, I'm bored, that doesn't mean that you're a boring person. It just means at this moment you're bored. So that's not a self-identity, that's a state. Pardon me. And so we want to differentiate between a state and something that you identify with. Now, however, I'm bored isn't necessarily an identity, but I'm boring might be. So our self-identity is made up of our past, our present, and our future concepts of ourself, what we identify to be our personal attributes, our skills, our abilities, our occupation, our hobbies, even our physical attributes. So somebody who's very physically strong, they might identify with being strong. They might identify with being strong in the past, the present, or the future. And that might mean mentally or physically or emotionally strong. There are people that live their behaviors. You know, I met a guy who was an airplane pilot and an airline pilot, and he lived the airplane pilot life. He had a different woman every night. He was in and out of different places. He was very irregular in all aspects of his life. And as I was talking to him about it, I said, how come? Why do you choose to live this life of the pilot, even though that's your job? Does it mean you have to? And he said, I'm an airplane pilot, and I work for a glamorous airline, and I have this wonderful job. Why would I not want to live the lifestyle? Oh, okay, that's interesting. I have another friend, he runs, and if he's not at work or at home with his family, he's running. And I asked him one day, how much of your identity would be challenged if you weren't able to run? And he said, I wouldn't be if I couldn't run, which I thought was really interesting. So our personality attributes might be, I'm smart, I'm creative, I'm clever, I'm fun. Our skills and abilities, I'm an artist, I can run fast, I can make things, I'm a great baker, I can think outside the square. And I know that people who are quite smart, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs or CEOs or business owners, and sometimes they're too smart for their own good because they identify with skills and abilities and personality attributes like thinking and being in their head. But I actually think that they miss out on some of life because some of what we can identify with might not actually be useful in many contexts of life. I might identify with being a lonely person or being a boring person or not having any goodness or not being worthy. Or I might value too much of thinking or value too much of being on my own, and so that might alienate me from different aspects. So I encourage you and invite you to even jot down a few of things that you identify with about yourself that are absolute yeses. And some of them might be more positive and resourceful, and some might be more unresourceful. But regardless of what it is, it's good to know. Our second aspect that we're going to look at is our boundaries. Our boundaries are about the preferences or rules that you have about things. They might be or cultural or society or religious rules. They might be just the behaviors that you'll accept from and towards yourself, from others and towards yourself. It might also be your ability to either say yes or no to events or statements, and that's an absolute congruent yes or no. Really, it's being congruent about your rules, about your beliefs that you have in life. I know some people that we might have completely opposing views, let's say about religion or something like that. But they hold strong fast to their rules. I appreciate that. I highly respect when somebody has boundaries that make sense to them and are congruent for them, and they hold steadfast to them, because that says to me you are strong in character. And most likely people who have stronger boundaries have a better sense of self-identity because they don't let other things push them over. The two bullet points that I have on the screen there, what behaviors will you accept from and towards yourself. So that would be, what could somebody do before you stand up? What would you do to yourself before you go, hold on, that's not right? For instance, I work with a lot of people who they're as nice as anything, sweet as pie, to people they don't know. But to themselves, they're mean. And their internal dialogue is cruel. So what behaviors would you allow? Would you allow that to yourself? Do you even hear? Do you recognize that from yourself? And if not, why not? And if you don't have the boundaries and the rules of what you'll accept, again, why not? The ability to say either yes or no is quite interesting. That we know about the yes man, and the yes man is or woman is the person that has to say yes, and they have a hard time saying no because it might mean something. It might mean people don't like them, or it might mean that people don't appreciate them, or it might mean a lot of things. And so they say yes to so much and negate themselves, and they don't actually end up doing anything they want to do. It's all for other people. And these people are usually very busy, but busy doing stuff they don't want to do. And on the other side of it, there's people that always say no. And they're the people that they're following a rule, but the rule might not be one that they want to follow. It might be more of society's rule, or it might be an incongruent rule. It might be somebody saying, hey, do you want to come to dinner or come to lunch? And internally they're going, yes, I do, I do, I do, I do. And out of their mouth comes, no, thank you. And it comes that way because there's beliefs or values or identity that is incongruent. So we want to set boundaries that are congruent and useful for you. And even take a look at what your current boundaries are and if you have them. The third component here is our worldview. So this is what the person uses to define and organize what the world is to them. And some people have a very good and stable worldview. Some people don't. If somebody's worldview is more along the lines of the world is an evil place, or people are out to get you, or I'm going to be taken for a ride, or people can't be trusted, or it's just a bad place to be. And again, these are set by society, culture, religion, economic status, all kinds of things. But what research has shown is the more positive or the more resourceful and useful your worldview is, with being realistic, the more self-concept, the higher your level of self-identity will be. If a person has more of a tainted worldview, then their identity isn't going to be either as strong or as powerful, or they're going to doubt a lot. Or it's going to be a negative identity, and then that can lead to other issues. And the fourth aspect is self-esteem, and this is a person's overall evaluation of his or her worth at any time. And the key here is their worth. So this might be, what do I need to do to deserve or be worthy? Do I need to be happy? Do I need to be successful? Do I need to be confident? Do I need to get assurances from myself or other people? what we found is that people who have a high level of identity and self-concept, they just have a high level of self-esteem. They know they are worthy. They don't have to do anything to be worthy. They just know that they're worthy. If, for example, I'm working on a project, maybe it's this webinar, and this webinar goes completely wrong. For me, that does nothing to my self-esteem. It really doesn't shatter or break or shift my confidence. It might about a task if I've done something wrong, but that gives me an ability to learn something. But it doesn't necessarily shift my worth. I know that I'm worthy of happiness, of success, of all of these things in life. But oftentimes people don't have that. And something needs to be perfect. If it's not perfect, I'm not worthy. If I'm not perfect, I'm not worthy. If I'm not making you smile, I'm not worthy. And so there's contingencies to self-worth. So this is a good reminder to take stock of where you're at and be able to look internally to figure out who are you and how does all of this fit together. So let's even look at this, how this all fits together. So we've seen the basic definitions of each of these components, and your self-identity, which is the core of us, is surrounded by our boundaries, our rules that we have, which filter the inward and outward experience of the world. So our boundaries filter our self-esteem and our self-worth and also our worldview. If if, for example, we have a negative worldview that the world is bad and everybody's out to get us, then that will be more likely to penetrate our boundary because our boundary says, I'm going to get hurt, or it says, I need to keep myself safe. And either way, there's going to be a little bit of discomfort there. So when we have more of a resourceful worldview, when we have strong boundaries that are congruent and healthy, when we have a high level of self-esteem and we know we're worthy, then we can have a good concept of ourself and our identity can be strong. And we can be who we are wherever we are. However, when we don't have a clear defined worldview, or it's more tainted or negative, or our boundaries are breakable or false or not there or non-existent, or our self-esteem is very much based on needing to prove worthiness, then there's going to be problems with self-identity. There's going to be doubt about who I am. There's going to be questions about do I belong, or where do I belong, or what am I? And there's going to be a lot of self-doubt oftentimes. And so being able to look at this from a perspective that says, okay, well, what can we do about it, is quite important. And this is then where NLP comes in. So the first aspect is taking stock and understanding where we're at. The second one is going, okay, let's figure this out. So if you haven't been introduced yet to the NLP formula, let's do that now. So this is our NLP formula. We create it like a bridge because we're building a bridge and moving across it. We're looking at, first of all, what is a person's present state. So in terms of identity, this might be, I don't know who I am, I'm confused about who I am, I don't like who I am, I want to figure out who I am. And the desired state, which is probably more important, is what you want. I want to have a strong identity. I want to be me. I want to know who I am. If I could wish something to anyone, it would be the ability to be themselves congruently, authentically, and wholeheartedly. If I could help people simply to be their authentic self and love that would be a good life for me. That would be a good life for me. So that's what I would wish for anybody, but that would be my desired state for them, not necessarily their desired state for them. So whatever their desired state is, or your desired state for yourself. Then we take a look at, well, what are any interferences that might hold you back? Interferences are blocks or barriers to success, unresourceful emotions or unuseful behaviors, negative thoughts, different habits. So I might even be identifying with myself or somebody else that I have, no boundaries, or I have more of a negative self-worth, or I don't have self-worth, or it's all externally oriented, or I have a tainted worldview, or I have some negative identifications about who I am. So I can use NLP to help clear those interferences. I might be using timeline to change some of the behavior, or some of the patterns of emotion, behavior, and thought. I might be creating some new behaviors with maybe anchors or some modalities or new behavior generator. I might be creating some congruence with parts integration. I could be doing lots and lots of stuff. Later on, I'll guide you through the neurological levels alignment. That will help with that as well. I'm also identifying what resources are needed and what you've already got, so we can access and build resources. And resources are attitudes, emotions, beliefs, skills, behavior, positive thoughts. And we can use NLP again, the tools of NLP, anchors and parts and timeline and goals in the future and well-formed outcomes and submodalities to actually access resources so that you can have more of what you need. Now, NLP has a presupposition that says everyone has all the resources they need to be successful, but sometimes we're not always sure which ones to tap into. With NLP, we can use NLP to control the controllable. So we can reassess our self-identity. We can create strong boundaries, create a clean worldview, and reevaluate our self-esteem. Nothing in our life is constant except for the need for sleep, drinking, eating, going to the bathroom, and breathing. Those are the only constants in life. Everything else is by choice, is by design. So some of the NLP stuff we can do is we can clear negative emotions, we can build and access resources, we can enhance capabilities, we can question your beliefs, we can clear unresourceful beliefs, and we can even change values and beliefs to help you align your present state with your desired state and be who you want to be. Self-awareness and looking internally is probably one of the key aspects of creating self-identity, of figuring out who you are and who you want to be. Because first you need to know who you are or who you're not to be able to figure out who you want to be. So in NLP we call this sensory acuity, being more acute or more aware of the various sensory aspects of what you see, what you hear, what you feel. And when we're looking at ourself, that becomes self-sensory acuity. So I encourage you to do these things. First of all, question your beliefs. As it says here, especially the resourceful ones. What I mean by this is that we want to question why we believe what we believe and how we believe what we believe. In NLP, we have a few tools, our meta model and our meta questions, which help us to dig deeper into the deeper structure of the unconscious mind. And we can either, as we look at, if you've done Master Prac with us, you've been introduced to some sleight of mouth patterns, we can either challenge a belief, which starts the unconscious mind going, maybe this isn't real. Or we can reinforce a belief, which allows the unconscious mind to go, yep, that's absolutely true, I knew it. And it digs it down even better. So if I had a belief that I'm boring, then I can question that. I can say, well, how do you know that you're boring? What evidence do you have? What would happen if you weren't boring? What does being boring mean? How would you define being boring? What are the steps that you take to be boring? And so it starts to kind of question, well, do I have evidence of it? Do I know how I do this? How do I know this? And so it starts to challenge that belief, which makes it easier to change. If I have a belief, like for me, I have a belief that I'm very resourceful. If I want to get something done, I'll get it done. It's just a matter of time. I just have to figure out how, which I can do because I'm very resourceful. I can enhance that or reaffirm that by asking questions. How do I know that I'm resourceful? What evidence do I have of it? I have a lot of evidence of it. What steps do I take? What does it mean to me to be resourceful? What do I believe about being resourceful? What do I believe about that belief about being resourceful? And all of these will enhance it. It will stabilize and concrete in that positive belief about myself. So question your beliefs. Fill in the gaps. If there are a lack of boundaries, if I don't know enough, if I need more capabilities or skills, if I need more anything, fill in the gaps. Because the more you know, the better you can do. So being self-sensory acute really helps us to be better with ourselves. We can be flexible with boundaries. As long as you've got your boundaries, then flexibility is key for getting and having the life that you want. There's a saying that I really like, and it's something like, be strong in your goals, be flexible with how you get there. So stay strong to your goals, be flexible in how you get there. And as it says here on the last bullet point, let go of shoulds about other people. We know how other people should run their lives, but it's their lives. So anytime, should all over yourself if you must, but other people, let them be themselves. So if you're telling people about how they should run their life, you should do the dishes like this, you should feed your cat this food, you should walk to work more, you should go to the gym, you should save money, you should buy a house, you should, let go of it. Because that's trying to run other people's lives, and it's trying, I don't know what it's doing to your identity, but it's not doing anything. And it's not serving other people either. So be aware of you and let go of shoulds about other people. I think that's an interesting and quite important aspect. So this brings us back to the neurological levels. Robert Ziltz created the neurological levels based on the logical levels of Gregory Bateson. And there's 6 different neurological levels. I love this image here. It's fantastic. Normally I would write the neurological levels the other way with purpose at the top and environment at the bottom, but this is just too good of an image to pass up. And ultimately what this says is that everywhere in life we have an environment. This is when and where we are, and we have different environments. If it's the workplace, the bar, home, our grandmother's house, the zoo, outside, inside, we have a different environment. In those different environments, we use different behaviors. This is what we do, what we say. So this is our different behaviors. And we do that based on our capabilities, how we do what we do. And we do those because of different beliefs and values. And all of that, the environment, our behaviors, our capabilities, our beliefs and values, our identity, well, that leads to our identity, who you are in that situation. And then above that, we have our purpose or greater whole or spirituality or universe, whatever it is you want to call it. But we've got something that's above and beyond us. Hopefully, most of the time in your life, you're going to be congruent in these, and you will have a strong sense of who you are in any aspect. But sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't. Now, we all have different identity types. It doesn't mean we have split personalities. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But most likely, it's just we have different values and beliefs and capabilities and behaviors in different environments, which makes us a little bit of a different person. For example, I'm the same person pretty much everywhere I go, but you might see a little bit of difference in me. If I'm at a professional organization, if I'm at a conference, you might see behaviors that are maybe more professional from me, but I'm going to still be me. But my beliefs and values say that I act in a different way, or I am in a different way. I tell different kinds of jokes, or I portray who I am in a different kind of way. Versus with my friends who've never seen me in a work environment, they're going to know the same Heidi, but they're going to see a different side of me. They might see different behaviors from me. Similarly, if I'm at my grandma's house, I'm going to have different behaviors, different capabilities in that environment because of my beliefs and values about family or about my grandma or about the rules. And so I'll be a little bit different me. Now, she's going to know the same me as my friends, but if I'm out at the pub drinking with my friends, I might tell some different kinds of jokes and I might have some different kinds of drinks than if I'm at my grandma's house. Because I don't believe, and this is at the level of beliefs and values, I don't believe alcohol is allowed at my grandma's house. I don't know that for sure, but I don't think that I would even allow myself to have that behavior because it just doesn't fit there. But that doesn't change who I am, it just means that I do different things. So we have lots of different places, different identity types, but hopefully they're mostly congruent with who you are. If not, that's where confusion takes place. And oftentimes I hear stories, and I'm sure you have too, and maybe you've even lived it, where, somebody's not happy in their job, their career, that might be the same thing, their relationship, where they're at, and so they do something. They get out of the relationship or find a new relationship or change jobs or move states or move countries. And so they change their environment. And that might be great for a week, a day, a month, a year. And then they wake up and go, man, how did I get here? Because they still take themselves. And they take themselves with their beliefs, their capabilities, their behaviors to the new environment. So the grass might look greener, but when you get onto the other side, you still have to water it, you still have to mow it, you still have to take care of it. So I'm going to lead you through a process, neurological levels alignment, and the purpose of this process is to help us create alignment, congruency. So I encourage you to think about either an aspect of your life where you're unsure about who you are, and we'll take a look at that specific silo of you, or maybe it's just your whole identity and your whole self altogether. Usually this process is great for being able to just provide a bit of clarity and create some internal and external congruency. Whatever it does for you is fantastic. So I invite you to find a space where you can close your eyes for a few moments. And so that means, or you could do this as you're looking at another website, whatever it is that you want to do. And just listen to my words. We're going to go through this. I'm going to just listen to my words and follow the directions, I suppose. We're going to move through it from environment to all the way to purpose. And as we do that, I just want you to notice what you notice. And then we're going to store some learnings and get some good stuff from that space of purpose, and then move backwards back to environment. And we're going to see if this enhances or changes or aligns who you are. So go ahead and close your eyes and find a nice space that you can just be for a few minutes. And I want you in your mind to be thinking about that area of your life that you'd like more clarity about who you are, your identity. In fact, as soon as you think about where that aspect is in your life that you'd like more clarity, I'd like you to imagine that you're there now. So you can allow yourself to mentally and physically step into the environment and associate to that. So that would be allow yourself to see what you see, hear what you hear, and feel what you feel as if you were there now in the environment of where we're exploring. And just let yourself notice. Let yourself notice what you see, what you hear, what you feel. Take stock. You might like it, you might not. But just notice. And as you notice that, allow your mind to shift a moment, to move into the air of your behaviors. What you say, what you do, how you act, how you behave. And notice how you behave. Feel that. Step into that. Feel it, see it, hear it. And notice some of the behaviors that you have in that environment. We're just noticing. And then in your mind, take yourself to the area of your capabilities. What you do. How you do it. And notice what you're capable of. And notice if you're capable of being capable of those things. Your skills, your competencies, your knowledge. And just notice. And then move your awareness into your values and beliefs about this aspect of you. What do you believe to be true? What's important to you? What rules do you have? What truths do you hold? Right or wrong? Good or bad? It might be about your boundaries, your worldview, your self-esteem and self-worth. Or just some of those concepts that you identify with. But just notice. And as you notice that, move in your mind to that aspect of your identity of who you are. And notice that. And notice if it's solid or if it's loose. If you like it, if you don't. If it's indifferent or if you maybe notice nothing. I don't know. Whatever it is perfect. But just notice it. Perfect for now. And then in your mind, let's move to a higher plane, to the greater whole, the universe, purpose, whatever you want to call it, that space and place that's outside of you, beyond you, meta. And it's in this space and place where nothing is yet everything is. This is where you just are. This is where there's no judgment. There just is. There's nowhere to go, nowhere to be, nowhere to think, and nowhere to hide, and no reason to. This is just you at your core. No one else, just you. And it's in this space, in this place, where we can find some alignment, we can find some congruency, we can find you. And without a conscious need to know, allowing your unconscious mind just to store any learnings and understandings. So that you can be more of you. And just trust that as we start to move back through these levels, that your unconscious mind, the non-thinking part of your mind, can simply store learnings and understandings for you without the need to know what they are. So in your mind, let's move back to the area of your identity. And notice how this has shifted a bit. Maybe it's the same, maybe it's different. Maybe it's more expansive, maybe it's more specific. But just feel that shift of who you are. And then trust your unconscious mind to store any learnings and resources from this space. And move back to your beliefs and values. And as you do, notice, what do you believe to be true now about you, about who you are? Notice your truths here, your boundaries here. And again, trust your unconscious mind to store any learnings. And bring those learnings as well as the ones from before and move into the space of your capabilities. And notice what you're capable of now. That's right. And store any learnings and understandings. And bring those learnings and understandings back to the area of your behaviors. And notice your new behaviors, what you say, what you do, your new reactions or actions. And hopefully they're more aligned with who you are now, and your beliefs and values and boundaries. And store any learnings and understandings from that space. And in your mind, move again back to the area of your environment. And notice how this has shifted too. And experience what that's like to have more alignment with who you are. With why you do what you do and how you do it and what you do in this environment. And again, trust your unconscious mind to store any learnings and understandings. And come back into the here and now, but bringing that identity with you. And then slowly reorient yourself back to wherever you're at, wiggling your fingers and toes, having a little bit of a stretch. And if you haven't already, go ahead and open your eyes. I love the neurological levels alignment process. It really is, it can be very beautiful. And it's such a simple process that helps us to go inside in a different kind of way, in a non-thinking kind of way, to reevaluate and to reassess who we are, where we're at, what we do, and why we do it. So our identity, as we've seen, is more than just an identity. There's so much that's made up of it. And as I said earlier, it might not just be through this webinar that you go, oh yeah, that's who I am. But it might be through a little bit of work. So again, I encourage you to go back and watch this a few times and take notes and make sure that who you are is congruent with you. And maybe there's different aspects of yourself. Maybe there is you as a parent and as an employer or an employee and as a friend or a daughter or a son or just you that you want to take a look at. But what you'll see here on the screen are a few of my absolutely favorite memes about just being you. You know, so many people are worried about, am I doing the right thing or is this good enough? And the answer is always going to be yes. You're doing this right. It is good enough. Just be you. Thank you so much for your time today. Be yourself. Enjoy that. And my wish for you is to authentically be you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for joining me.